Hello and welcome to My Side of the Bag. I'm Drew Hinesley, joined as always with my co-host Scott Leonard, aka Scotty Worldwide. Scotty, where are you coming to us from today?
On the road again, Drew. It's back in New Jersey, but this time on the Jersey City side, coming live from Jersey City, playing at Liberty National for the Mizuho Americas Cup.
Okay, well, I'm excited for this show. I want to hear a lot about Liberty National, but I also am excited to present our first invited guest onto my
Uh-oh.
side of the bag. And the reason I make that distinction is I asked him to come on the show, but he caddies on the PGA Tour. He was very busy last week in Myrtle Beach trying to help his man, Kevin Streelman, play just a little bit better. And he couldn't come on the show. And in the interim, after I invited him, we actually had Nick DiVitetto and Terry Walker come on the show. So Matt zinged me pretty quick after we posted those episodes and after having Nick and Terry and said, hey, thanks for letting me be the first guest. So now, after that introduction, let me welcome to the show for, I think, his fifth appearance on the podcast, but only the first appearance in this new version with Scotty, Matt Achatz. Matt Achatz, welcome to My Side of the Bag again.
Thank you for having me. It's interesting being on the Zoom because I have a face for radio 100%.
Well, you always sound great. You always have a ton of insight. We've got a lot of things to talk about today. There's actually some breaking news that happened in the world of golf today. And this is a show made by caddies for caddies. And so we heard today about Rory filing for divorce. And so instead of covering it the way all the other media outlets are going to cover it, I thought this should be a really fun topic to discuss as caddies, because we have all been in those situations and we can certainly all learn from each other how to handle a situation as heavy and life-changing as that, and how to kind of try to compartmentalize, or do you use it as fuel? How do you as a caddy attack a big life-changing event in your player's life, like Rory going through a divorce? And obviously his caddy, Harry Diamond, has been part of this story for the last 7 years. I think that's the length of the marriage. So obviously this is going to affect him too in a personal way. So how does he professionally, and it's the week of a major. So there's so much on the line from a caddy's perspective. Matt, I want to go to you first because I think you have the most experience on this episode of the three of us. How do you deal with big life-changing events? And do you say something? Do you not say something? What are your tricks?
My first player that I worked for, Rocco, when I did work for him, he was going through a divorce himself. Now, the best thing I did was just be a good friend, be the person I am, and the best caddy I can be. Honestly, as far as Roy goes, that's personal. I don't have anything really that I can say to Harry or to Roy. I'm sorry that he has to be going through this. As far as my concern would be, let's focus on golf. Talk about golf. Roy's personal life to me is his personal life. I don't need to talk about what I think he should or shouldn't do as far as getting divorced. You know, I I don't really know what our topics are going to be this evening. I don't want to blindside you with that answer. But I think that's a personal matter for Roy and his family. And I think we can jump into golf and all that stuff that we want to. But I think as far as on course, you just be Harry's an awesome dude and he's an awesome caddy. And he just continues to be the guy that he's been. And I doubt this happened overnight. This is probably something the two of them have been dealing with and talking with for a long time. Not an easy decision. My heart goes out to Rory and his family for having to go through this. It kind of stinks, but that's where I stand on that. And I think Rory's now coming into this PGA having won 2 starts in a row, correct?
Correct. The Zurich with his partner Shane Lowry, and of course Quail Hollow, Wells Fargo last week for his 4th victory in Charlotte. Scotty, what's your experience with this, and what are some things? And again, I don't want to be like the other media outlets and talk about the personal details. I want to talk about it from our professional perspective. How do you draw that line And again, I've got my experience that I'll share in a minute, but Scotty, what's your experience with trying to navigate some rough personal waters while still trying to achieve a professional goal in a very intense situation on the course?
Yeah, no doubt. I think Maddie's spot on when you talk about Harry. Harry is a longtime childhood friend of Rory. So I think that helps. Again, I don't think these things happen in a vacuum. It didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to file for divorce. These things have probably been on the minds of both of them for a long time. And I think it will help Rory, the fact that him and Harry are so close, that when he goes to the golf course, he can just be normal with Mr. Diamond. My personal experience, I've never had a player go through a divorce, but you know when things are happening with your player personal wise. And I think you just try to be the best you can be and be a support system for them. And if that means just doing your job and saying goodbye at the end of the day, that means that's the job. If that means making yourself available and saying, hey, do you want to go get a beer? Do you want to go to dinner more? And just making yourself available for them as someone that is on their team and on their side, that maybe extend a little bit more than the golf course. I think at the end of the day, that's what they respect. And, you know, they want you to be around. That's why they hire you. That's why you're part of the team more than just getting them a number on a par five or whatever. I think it's because they like you as a person. And I think you kind of lean into that relationship and just support in any way you really can. Because at the end of the day, you just want them to play good golf and you also want them to be good mentally. And so sometimes you just have to be there as a friend more than anything for them.
Well, my experience with this, it wasn't divorce, but I was called by Stuart Sink to caddy for him in the first event he played on the PGA Tour after his wife Lisa's cancer diagnosis. And I was just coming off working with Bryson. And so I kind of teased him towards the end of the week. I said, I've been doing crowd control with my last job, you know, Bryson with the one length irons, and everybody wanted to come over and grab them and swing them and see how they felt. And I did crowd control with Stewart, but it was a little different. I had to step in a couple of times to guys like Phil Mickelson and David Toms, who were just wanting to put their arm around Stewart and tell him how much they're thinking about him. And, hey, we've been through this. We've got some folks we can put you in touch with. As Stewart said, that was still kind of the fog of diagnosis. You just didn't know what you were doing. And while these people had well wishes, I still had to step in there and go, hey, guys, hey, I really appreciate what you say, Phil, but we got to be on the first tee in 16 minutes and we're on 9-iron. And I mean, it was just one of those, just trying to kind of just crowd control. And Rory, you know, I don't know if crowd control is going to be part of this issue with him, but anytime you're going through something as a player, sometimes the caddy's the taskmaster just says, hey, let's go practice for 30 minutes and then we can get running. So caddies can serve so many different roles. And I just thought that was an interesting topic for us to talk about how to navigate, again, tricky off course, not necessarily that specific situation. And one more for me that I have, I had a player that was newly married and she wanted me to carry the 3-carat diamond ring in my pocket while we caddy. And that was a personal situation that I did not want to make a mistake in. And I made sure I handed that ring to her on the 18th green after every round. You talk about a caddy getting in trouble, you lose a 3-carat diamond ring. That's no longer your job, is it?
That's a good severance package, though.
Well, if you indeed lost it, right? So, all right. Well, Matt, one reason you're on this show is your wealth of knowledge on all tours. Scotty this week is at Liberty National working the Mizuno Americas Open. Matt, you have a little bit of LPGA experience. Tell us about that.
I have a just tiny little bit of experience. I've done one event for Arya Jutanagarn. I've done one event for Natalie Sheary, who was never a full-time player. And I've done one practice round for Lydia Ko. So that is the bulk of my LPGA experience. And all of them were great. I really enjoyed. They were all very nice and very impressive players, all three of them.
Got to know how that one practice round materialized and why it didn't turn into two.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was actually looking for a job at the time and living in Detroit. The tournament was in Toledo, and Lydia's caddy at the time somebody had passed away on his flight, and their flight got grounded somewhere. So he could not get to town until I think Wednesday night. So being so close to Toledo, Lydia's agent called me and asked if I could just go down and help her with the practice. So I was very happy to do that. Super nice girl, just incredibly nice girl, and was happy to see it. Little to do with my game plan. She's so good, but she ended up winning that week. So it was pretty cool to help her on a course she'd never seen, go through her whole practice, get everything set up, and she wins that week.
So
But
that
kudos to
might
her.
be the best. That might be the best winning percentage of any LPGA caddy I've ever heard of. You had 3 jobs and you've got 1 win. So well done.
Well, kudos to, I don't remember who her caddy was at the time back then, but obviously that person was a heck of a caddy.
That's amazing. What I can't wait to hear your percentage of that winning check there for the one day.
I'll tell you what, I was pretty shocked with Lydia and her mom when they gave me a check. I was pretty surprised how much it was for. They couldn't have been more generous.
And that's exactly who Lydia Co is. Just like, she's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. So
she was amazing.
Right.
I mean, her distance control, I still have never seen anyone that I've worked for to this day who had distance control like Lydia. Like in that, I mean, I only spent 1 day with her, but if I asked her to hit a shot 140, it either went 139, 140, or 141. It was not anything different than that. It was unreal.
All right. So that being said, there's some news coming out on social media, and Scottie Worldwide has the scoop on this LPGA Pro versus a Joe. Scottie, tell us about it.
This is so Eric Anders Lang, who used to be a member at a club that I caddied at in Wilshire Country Club in Los Angeles, went on his podcast and talked about how there's the story of how an LPGA pro played against member, but I have the real story as someone who has the inside knowledge at Wilshire Country Club. So this started as a boys trip in Vegas. Guys were drinking, members of the club, and one guy who's a good golfer said, "I can beat one of those pros." And the other guys put those drinks down pretty quick and said, "Oh, really? Well, why don't we set something up?" And wealthy guys, one guy said, "Okay, well, I'm willing to bet I can beat them." And they said, "Okay, well, we'll pick the LPGA player and we'll start at $75,000. Stroke play event."
Whoa.
Zach Cooperman said, "Okay." And when they set it up, and I think by the first round, by the 14th hole, she was up like 12 shots. Okay. And so like 17, 18, they both hit it on the green. And she started just like giving him putts to not have to putt it out. But he wanted more. So after he lost 75K, he said, "Let's do one more round at match play, and I'll put another 25,000 up." I said, "Okay." Same scenario. I think he lost like down 7. So it wasn't very close. It's a true story. We even at the club, we made a sign and we had like a standard bearer and everything. But it's a 1000% true story. He lost over 100K. It's documented. The player was H.Y. Park, Hee Young Park, who's multiple winner on tour. But it just goes to show you, like, for all the people on Twitter that say that they could beat these girls, or these handicaps could outdo these girls, they're just absolutely incorrect. And some people even like to say, like, "Oh, well, their game's more relatable because they hit it as far as I do." No, the game's not relatable. All right. If you hit it 250 down the middle, you could not shoot 3 to 4 under every day. Like, that's not relatable. So I don't even like when guys say that the game's relatable. Like, maybe they hit it a relatable distance, but what they do when they get to that distance and how they make birdies is very different than what's relatable to the scratch golfer's game. So 1000% a true story.
So, Matt, from your experience with Lydia Ko and the other 2 pros that you had a chance to work for, would you ever think that some Joe, even a plus handicap, could hang with one of these LPGA touring pros?
No, I don't think so. My question is, did they play the same tees? I guess that's my first question.
Yes. Yes. I mean, but Wilshire Country Club from the green tees tipped out is
Yeah.
6,400 yards. So it's not, they play the same tees, but it's not long. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe if they went and played, Riviera and played different tees or something like that, it could probably be maybe a little bit
It's
different.
it's not the length it's the little shots around the greens. It's the putting, it's the wedges, it's curving a shot out around a tree or under a limb, or the flyer lie in the rough that the pro is going to handle, that the amateur is not going to know what to do. I don't see. Yeah, someone could potentially have a great round, the best putting day of their life, but these girls, they're so good. It's a joke how good they are. Amateurs cannot compete with professionals. It just, people like to think they can, but I don't think it's possible.
Scotty, you were telling me the first time you ever saw Matt Achatz, was it at the US Open?
So no, the first time I ever met Matty was when he turned up at Sherwood Country Club, and we were both caddying there. I don't know if Matty remembers those days of slumming it with some of us, but we share a great mutual friend, Patrick Remanowski, and at the time, obviously, Matty had gone on and then won the U.S. Open, and then Torrey Pines the very next year they paired Tiger with Rory. And so me and Patrick went down like Thursday morning. It was either Thursday or Friday morning. It was one of those first two rounds, and we watched Maddie and Rocco play at Torrey. This would have been
Sure.
2009, right? With the year after they won the U.S. Open, the year after Tiger won.
Yeah, 2009. I think it was 2009. It might have been 2010.
Okay.
Because 2009, I think either Tiger was still hurt or Rocco was hurt. Rocco had surgery on his knee. I mean, we're going back pretty far to remember that, but man,
Yeah.
I love Sherwood Country Club. That was such an awesome place. My stay there was so short lived. I was really only there for maybe 6 weeks or 7 weeks before Rocco asked me to go caddy the Phoenix Open. And I remember our caddy master Lance at the time. He was really cool. He was like, dude, he's like, if you got a chance, you gotta go. You gotta go. But yeah, what a great cast of characters there. Remy still talks to me every now and then. I get a text from him. He's such a good guy. But man, sure, what a great place. What a cool spot, Sherwood Country Club.
That was really
All right.
cool.
So you're on the loop for Rocco, famously runner-up, unfortunately, to a legendary performance from Mr. Woods. You stay with Rocco for many years. You're obviously one of the best in the world at what you do. So fill the listeners and the viewers into what you've been up to the last year or so.
I appreciate those kind remarks, but I will also let everyone know that I've never hit a shot. So most of the time, us caddies like to say we're only as good as our players, and a lot of that holds true all the time. My last few years, I've worked for some great guys. Rocco and I lasted a little over 3 years, and he went ahead and fired me pretty soon after we won our first event together, and hired back one of his old caddies, a good guy named Martin, which led me to Jim Herman, Matt Betancourt a little bit, David Mathis. I worked a season for, and then I ended up working 4 or 5 years for Jim Herman, and we'll get to where I am now. I worked a couple years for an awesome dude, Chase Seifert, total class act. John Vanderlyn, awesome kid playing the Korn Ferry Tour. Chase and Vanderlyn will both make it to the PGA Tour. They're both so good. And that leads me to this year, where I've been fortunate enough to, through just luck, Kevin Streelman's caddy, Mike Bester, retired from caddying, and Kevin and I just hooked up, and I've been with Kevin Streelman this year. Just about ready to start playing some real good golf. He is.
So most guys in our business are looking at the PGA Tour University rankings. We're looking at the women's amateur golf rankings. You're working for a guy that's my age. How'd that happen?
Well, I'm actually older than he is, so I guess a lot of I just want to work for someone who enjoys what he does. I want to I want to work for someone who puts in the work, who puts in the effort, and still has goals and still has things he wants to achieve. And Kevin just sort of fits that bill perfectly. And I've also known Kevin. Kevin and I started the same year on the PGA Tour, so we've known each other for 17 years. We've been paired together a number of times. In fact, Kevin was the first round leader of that 2008 US Open, his rookie year on the PGA Tour. So,
Yes, he was. And wasn't he, didn't he play really good earlier that year at the Farmers Insurance? And that kind of propelled him with some confidence to the US Open?
you know what? I think he did. But on the other side of that pillow, Rocco shot like 78 or 79 that year on the South Course and didn't make the cut. So it's interesting that he would go back and play that well in the summertime. Totally different golf course, though, weather conditions.
You and I have been sharing texts all the time. And recently, some texts coming from you about some really good work that you and Kevin are putting in. So talk a little bit about that and how a caddy fits into a player's practice schedule and all that. Some of the guys maybe want to know, what exactly are you doing to help your player right now off camera and outside of the rounds, the tournament rounds?
I mean, the most important thing to me is you're just there, you're supportive, you're positive. You don't complain, you don't whine, you don't if my guy wants to chip for 3 hours, I'm gonna encourage him the whole time we're out there that this is the path we got to be on, and this is what we're doing. You're just like Scott said when we first came on, you're just there to support. You're there to be positive. You're there to be a friend and a driving force. Kevin is the hardest. I don't want to say hardest working. He's the smartest and the hardest working player I've worked for. This guy is blue collar, Wheaton, Illinois, and I haven't put hours in like this on a golf course since I was 15 with dreams of playing the PGA Tour myself. I mean, if we don't put up a good performance, it's not from a lack of his work ethic and his preparation. It's second to none how this guy prepares for a tournament and the work he puts in to improve every day on his golf game.
Well, the work that Kevin's putting in is starting to show, and we're going to be back with a lot more from Matt Achatz here in a minute, but we're going to take a break, and we're going to talk about our newest sponsor here on My Side of the Bag. You've been watching some episodes. You've been noticing the hat that Scottie Worldwide is wearing. It's a Birdie Brands hat, and Birdie Brands has this fantastic bug spray, and as you can see, game on, bugs gone. Great logo, great catchphrase. Game on, bugs gone from Birdie Brands. Chemical free, won't leave a stain. This is peppermint scented, which peppermint they have found engages your brain to focus a little more. So not only are the bugs gone, but your game is on because you're locked in. So Birdie Brands 1 ounce bug spray fits in any golf bag, any travel bag. Great Father's Day idea gift. And if you want to visit these guys online, you can at birdiebrands.com or go to our website and our YouTube page, and we'll have some links on there for you so you can get your own Birdie Brands bug spray. Game on, bugs gone. All right. Now back to Matt Achatz, our guest on the show today. And one of the things we want to talk about is highlighting caddies who are the best in the world. So we're going to let you answer for the PGA Tour guy that fits this certain criteria. And Scotty, you're going to answer and give me an LPGA caddy who excels in these particular areas. First area will be overall strategy. Matt, I'm going to let you go first and give Scotty a chance to think about who the best overall statistician, is that the right word? Strategery, I know we hear a lot. That's not correct grammar either, but who develops the best strategy as far as you're concerned on the PGA Tour, Matt?
Develops the best strategy is a very simple answer. It's none other than Ted Scott, caddy for the number one player in the world, Scottie Scheffler. Ted, every time I see Ted, I'm doing my best to learn something. And he's constantly on his computer every single day before the round going over shot tracker information. Where are the fields hitting their tee shots? Where are the fields hitting their approach shots? Is this a middle of the green par 4? Is this a par 5 we should be laying up or going with 3-wood? Nobody right now, I think, is a better planner or statistician than Ted Scott.
I brought the stuttering bug out in everybody today.
Excluding our host, Drew, of course. His yardage books are second to none.
Anyway, now to the LPGA counterpart from Scottie Worldwide. Who develops the best strategy out there?
I hate to piggyback off world number ones, but I think who puts the most work in and develops the most strategy is Jason McD, who caddies for Nelly Korda. The guy just is so prepared, and it would be really, really easy for him to not develop a strategy and just let Nelly play golf, because she is that good and could probably still win at a rapid pace. But I think you can talk about going out there and looking at golf shots, looking at holes before the round, being prepared for any situation. Jason McD.
Okay, my answer to this would have been Paul Tesori on the PGA side, just because Paul taught me what VJ strategy was, and he kind of developed the bomb and gouge. Super aggressive off the tee, a little more conservative into the greens. If you do get yourself into a little bit of trouble, led to VJ being world number 1. I think Paul does a great job with all his players. So that would have been my answer. Now we're going to go to green reading, and this excludes a lot of guys because I don't think a lot of guys are always reading putts for their players. So this has to be somebody you see reading a lot of greens and really having a lot of input in that area of the game. So we'll let Scottie go first. Who's the best green reader on the LPGA Tour?
Wow. That's a tough question, because to your point, I don't see a lot of guys read greens on our tour. And a lot of guys aim point. Almost all the girls use aim point. But I'll just go with who I see as the best green reader. Jan Mierling, who caddies for Amy Yang, who they just won CME title at the end of the year. But I think also too, and it's not just reading it in the heat of the moment on Saturday and Sunday. It's going out there and rolling balls and putting discs down on Tuesday, Wednesday, and knowing kind of where they're going to set pins, how to get to pins, and then once you get to those pins, knowing exactly what that ball is how it's gonna roll, speed of it. So I think I think it's Jan Mierling, caddies for Amy Yang.
And Matt, on the PGA Tour, who's the best guy getting his guy in the hole quickest?
That's a very interesting question too, because like Scottie said, there's a lot of players that don't use caddies to help them read greens. So you only see it occasionally when you get paired with somebody where they actually have their caddy come in and read. Kevin's 50-50, give or take. So I don't really have a good answer for that. I know my man Don Donatello is an exceptional green reader, but there again, his player Alex Smalley doesn't really use him that often on the greens. So that's a really hard question. I don't have an answer for that one. Man.
Well, and folks, if you're listening to this ahead of the PGA Championship, Don Donatello got in, one of the last caddies to get in the field, looping for Alex Smalley, who got in because, was it Stricker's withdrawal that got Smalley in? Somebody's withdrawal, or was it Taylor Montgomery's withdrawal? But Smalley was one of those last 2 guys in on either Sunday night or Monday morning. So Don Donatello probably still out well after dark, learning the greens at Valhalla this week for the PGA Championship, if I know Double D.
Alex is starting to find his form this year. Could be a bit of a Cinderella story.
There you go. Could be a fun guy to watch charge up the leaderboard this week. All right. Best overall attitude on tour. And I know who I would pick just because I know the abuse he has to take, and he handles it exactly like his prior life as a school teacher prepared him for, and that's Michael Greller. The best attitude of anybody doing this job on planet Earth, because I don't know, if I had $1 for every time that I've heard Jordan say, Michael, we've got to make a better decision, Michael, I would be a very rich man, and I might not be doing this podcast. So Matt Achatz, who's got the best attitude that you know of on the PGA Tour?
Boy, I almost got to go with my man Mark Cairns on that one. He's just
Oh
so
yeah.
happy all the time. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
he kind of loves what he does. He's very jovial and he's just a good dude, man. Like you just kind of enjoy being around him.
Mark
I
is
like
currently working for JJ Spawn,
yeah.
won the Players Championship with Siwoo Kim, and actually filled in for his close friend Ted Scott at the PGA Championship
Yeah.
at Whistling Straits for Bubba Watson. You go back and you watch those highlights. It's not Ted next to Bubba in the heat of the moment. It's Mark Cairns. And once again, we have a PGA where Ted's got to step away for his son's high school graduation, and the chaplain on the PGA Tour is going to caddy for Scotty on Saturday if he makes the cut. Everybody just assumes because he's playing so good that he's going to get to work on Saturday, and then Ted will come back on Sunday. But I think that's an interesting little sidebar that Mark Cairns has such a good attitude that he can handle Bubba Watson in an off week, and that's not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah,
That's definitely.
So Matt, go ahead and finish that point, and then we'll go to Scotty's best attitude.
No, let's head over to Scotty.
Scotty, who has the best attitude on the LPGA Tour?
Gosh, well, I would have picked you, Drew, for sure as my co-host. You always had a really positive message in the morning. You always, had your 7 colored pens and ready to go with Bianca early in the morning. But I don't know.
OCD and good attitude is not the same thing. Obsessive
Uh,
compulsive is a different thing from good attitude.
I don't know, but I would say probably just best attitude. Chris Edwards, probably, who caddies
Okay.
for Gemma Driver. Just always in a good mood, always the first person to say how you doing, hey, you want to have lunch, or you going out to walk and see some holes, can I come with you? And he's got a cool English accent too, which makes him just more likable, and he could say anything to you and you just smile back. So I think that's why I would say Chris Edwards.
Okay, Scotty, I'm coming right back to you. Who's the best overall caddy on the LPGA Tour, and why is that the case?
I'll go Paul Fusco as the best overall caddy, because he's got everything we just talked about, and he's got the experience and he's seen everything. He knows how to deal with any situation, and he's also one of the hardest workers. Again, a guy that wouldn't need to go walk Toledo or go walk Walmart Monday or Tuesday morning, but he'll be there and getting his work done just in case anything happened to that new green or whatever. So I think if you watch him and he's seen everything, I think best overall caddy, Paul Fusco.
And for you, Mr. Achatz.
These are some very difficult questions today. Maybe I should have asked what we were going to be talking about.
You like flying off the seat of your pants, so that's exactly what you're doing right now.
I love it.
Best overall caddy. I think a little outside the box when it comes to this. It doesn't always strike me as the caddy who has the best player. And I'm going right now, this very moment for me is none other than the man who just won with Chris Gotterup, AJ Montecitos. AJ
GIIC. God is in control. That is AJ's copyrighted logo, and he's wearing it all the time.
I'm telling you, from the time I first met AJ, if you think about what he's done, he took Y Yang to win the PGA Championship. Tiger didn't have the Tiger Sunday. He shot 75 or 76, but YE won that. AJ won twice with Kevin Streelman. Then he wins with Adam Svensson. Now he's 2 weeks on the bag with Chris Gotterup, and he gets him a win. I'm sure there's someone else I'm forgetting about there, but I've seen AJ have a whole different type of players, like totally different type of players, and this guy gets it done with everybody that he works for. And I want to say I think it's 6 different players, 6 wins. right now, AJ is my man.
Well, for me, I know I do my best work when I have a fantastic personal relationship, but also a very symbiotic professional relationship. And so for me, that title has to go to Austin Kaiser, who's with Xander Schauffele. I just think they're the best team. They may not have the win totals or certain stats that you want to throw up, but I just think those guys are best buddies. And I know I don't think anybody else in the world can do the job for Xander that Austin can do. And so that's why I give Austin the best overall. I think he helps Xander more than anybody else on the planet could help Xander play at the highest level. So that's my personal opinion. I could be wrong.
I feel like there's a handful of those situations. I don't see another caddy doing for Jordan Spieth what Michael Greller's doing with him. You know, there's probably 50 of these relationships. So it's really tough to try to pinpoint it down to just one particular team or one particular caddy, because there's a lot of guys who are excellent at what they do. But I do think that's a very strong team, Xander and Austin.
All right, so we had so much fun with that game. We're going to play one final game before we let you go, Mr. Achatz. And again, Matt's going to answer for the guys. Scotty's going to answer for the women. And we're going to go top guns as far as players. Okay, so we're going to go through all the different categories. And I would love for you just a quick little, we've got 1, 2, 3, we got 6 categories. We've got, I'll go ahead and give them to you now so you can begin formulating in case you don't want to be redundant and give me the same player. Because if you're the guys and you're looking at stats, you could just go Scottie Scheffler for everything right now. Statistically, he is awesome at everything he does. We're going to go best driver of the golf ball, best iron play, best wedges, best putting, best scrambling, and then the best overall player. All right. So that said, we'll go back to the top of the list. And Matt, give me the best male driver of the golf ball.
I think that's an easy answer for me. It has to be Scottie Scheffler. The guy just doesn't miss a shot.
Worldwide, who's the best female driver of the golf ball on planet Earth?
You saw it all week. I'll go Madeline Sagstrom.
That's pretty good. She's got some depth too, doesn't she?
Absolutely.
Okay. How about iron play? Who's our best iron play on the LPGA Tour?
I'll say Amy Yang.
Amy Yang. And who's the best iron player for the men as far as you're concerned, Matt?
Wish I had a computer in front of me right now with some names on it.
Oh boy, I did that earlier today. I can tell you.
Yeah, I name me 10 people who play on the PGA Tour right now.
Colin Morikawa plays on the PGA Tour.
I mean, yeah, Morikawa is always talked about as one of the best iron players for sure. So let's just I'm gonna cop out on that one and just go with you and go with Morikawa.
He plays I call it video game golf. He can just do it on command and just hit the B button and spin it.
Morikawa definitely has one of my close runner-ups for one of the best caddies out there for sure, and JJ
Jakovac, who has come on my side of the bag in the past, prior to the November Masters. And that was an interesting conversation that they had. And we'd love to have JJ back on the show. JJ, if you're listening, give us a call. All right. Now the wedges. Matt, best wedge player, PGA Tour.
Scotty, let's cut over to you.
I'll go Rose Zhang.
Okay. Rose Zhang, who is defending this week at Liberty National. And I call it the double defense. She's defending at that tournament, and she won on Sunday at Upper Montclair. So she's 2 for 2 in the state of New Jersey, trying to go 3 for 3 this week.
She likes Jersey.
She does like Jersey, and she likes that crappy weather in Jersey too. So
it's been bad.
Every time she wins, she's wearing a rain jacket. So maybe something to that. Playing at Stanford, you got used to wearing that. You got used to hitting balls in it. Put the two together. I guess that's why she likes playing in bad weather. All right, Matt, best wedge player, PGA Tour.
Best wedge player that I've seen personally, actually, he's on the Champions Tour. So I can't give you a PGA Tour player. Steve Stricker, best wedge player I've seen.
Yeah. And what does he do with his wedges that makes him so good?
He is just a master of how far in the trajectory. The trajectory is so crucial to being a good wedge player, whether you want to be able to flight it in there or hit it high with spin. He's a boss at both of those.
So the guy that I've actually seen with my own two eyes recently up close that just did impressed me so much was Shane Lowry. And the reason it impressed me, every single divot that he makes with a wedge is about 1 inch by 1 inch. It's just a little square. It's just super consistent, very shallow, just clips them every single time. And I did not expect that. So I'm going to put Shane up there as one of the best wedge players, certainly that I've seen recently. All right, putting. Who's the
I
best
got
in the
I
world?
got this one. I got this
There you
one.
go. He's ready. He's ready now.
I'm ready for a coin toss though. Denny McCarthy or Ben
Yes.
Coles. These guys are ridiculous how much they fill it up.
Scotty?
Aditi Ashok.
Yes. Very
Oh.
good. Out of India,
Yeah.
representing
Yes.
I mean,
the Olympic Games in
when,
Tokyo. Probably do
when
so
she-
again, right?
yeah, absolutely. And when she gets on the green, everything looks like it's going to go in. And most of them do.
So my answer on the guy side, the guy who's actually trending up and his stats are really improving, and it could be a scary, scary summer if he really gets it going. Jason Day, his putter has returned, and he is moving up the charts in putting stats every single time I look at him. All right, scrambling. Who's the best scrambler, Scotty?
Say Hannah Green.
Yeah.
Just because she gets out of places sometimes and always kind of figures out a way just to score or make a par from places you really don't think though. And then I'll go slash. Can I get a second one? I'd say Lydia Ko, just because her short game is probably best in the world.
Well, that's part of scrambling. Matt, who's the best scrambler that you've seen on the guy's side?
Yeah, Scotty, I think you're always entitled to two if you need two names because
Like that.
I think I'm going to need two names right here, and they both hail from the great state of Texas. Scotty Scheffler, Jordan Spieth. They're both just incredible around the greens with their chipping and their pitching. And Scheffler, I think you can attest to this. He's starting to make more putts, but his pitching and chipping is fantastic.
Well, I actually spoke to Ted not long after they won the Masters in 2022 to see if I could get some short game tips that I could maybe take to my players that I was working with. And Ted said, well, Scotty likes to hit draws and cuts with his chip shots. And I said, that's great. But is there anything I can take to my players? That's good information, Ted, that he can shape chip shots, but I'm not working with that level just yet. Maybe one day I can incorporate that when I have a Scotty Scheffler type situation on my own hands. So that's how good Scotty is. All right, overall, I think I know who the answer is for the guys. So we're gonna let Scotty go first and tell us who's the best overall female golfer on the planet.
It's been this way, I think, for the last couple years, and you just saw her go 5 for 5. When she's playing the best, there's no one that's going to beat Nelly Korda on this tour. It's just she's that good, and she's that ahead of everyone from a skill standpoint. The conversation stops at Nelly Korda.
Okay, Matt, who's the best guy on the planet right now?
Kevin Streelman.
That's the best answer you're ever going to give me to a question I ask on this show. I love that. That is what it takes, folks, if you want to be successful at the highest level. Belief, confidence, and going and working very hard. Matt, any final thoughts before we let you go and let you go back to working very, very hard for your man?
Drew and co-host Scotty, thank you guys so much for having me on. And I think I've said this every time I've been on your show. I will do my homework before the next episode, but you know I won't.
All right. You do say that a lot, and you never do. And that's why I love having you on, because it's so fun and entertaining. I hope the folks that are watching this are enjoying it too. Scotty, any final thoughts for you before we wrap up this Top
No,
Guns episode.
no, but awesome to see you, Maddie. Continued success in a real way. You always had the best loops at Sherwood when you were there for that small stint, and I could tell you're one of the best, and have looked up to you for a long time.
You know, I got really lucky because one day Craig T. Nelson's caddy didn't show up, and Lance put me on that loop. And then Craig T had me every day I was there since, and he was awesome. And I got to carry a single bag. It was no more 4 caddying for 4 and running all day.
Sounds like
Guys,
a couple good stories for another episode. And this is what he does, Scotty. He's like a good performer. He just leaves the audience wanting a little more.
There we go. Well, that's why he's going to come back.
Anytime, boys. Anytime. And I will do a little homework so I know which guys on the PGA Tour hit iron shots.
Thank you, Matt Achatz, for coming on. It's always so much fun. Thanks to my co-host, Scotty Worldwide. And thanks to Birdie Brands for coming on board and sponsoring my side of the bag. Game on. Bugs gone. Birdie Brands. Get it in your bag today. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on this episode of My Side of the Bag.